Fear is a decision that this is not for me. That's what fear is.
Fear is going to be a part of me whether I like it or not, you know? And even to this day, there's things I want to do and I'm scared. Like, I get really, really fearful. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, and then?
There's a failure to understand how business works.
The problem with a lot of folks is they focus on intelligent assets and they focus on, what is that one? Mad assets. No, sorry, clever assets. But they don't focus on mad assets. Mad doesn't mean foolish assets.
The folks who truly build wealth over time, it is simply through discipline. Get into the habit. Money comes in, you put some aside in a saving, and then you invest. So saving and investing are not the same thing.
Who wants to make money and spend it when they're older? You know, you want the money now when you're young and you can spend it, you can travel, and you can do all these things.
Yep.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but even, again, to the young people, it's boring.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, like, isn't there a way you can still, you know, be able to accrue wealth and whatever without having to wait until you're in your 50s to enjoy it?
If you say you can, you're right. If you say you can't, you're also right.
Welcome back to another episode of mantalk.ke. Thank you for coming back for another week of conversation. Today is the season finale, and me and Oscar are very excited because we've talked about this concept for months, maybe years. This conversation is sponsored by Johnny Walker. It's all about progressive media, and for about 7 episodes, we've talked about keep walking. Now, we talked about our journey, me and Oscar, but today we're talking about some other people's journeys and how they've kept walking and how money has played a part in that. So, Mr. Come, do you want to do the honors?
First of all, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very distinguished panel. As you can hear from it's a very distinguished panel. And the moment they entered the room, temperatures climbed to plus 32 degrees Celsius. We're about to speak about the state of the economy and building a business during these times, and how we can also manage our personal finance as entrepreneurs to kind of make sure we get the best out of these opportunities that we have here as Kenyans. So I'm going to allow our guests to introduce themselves and tell them karibuni sana. Welcome to ManTalk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my brother. On ManTalk, you're having a guy starting and there's a lady.
Imagine.
I don't know.
Already you guys should be cancelled.
Please,
That is grounds for cancellation.
I think let's just move very quickly.
Let's move very expeditiously.
I will be second.
To the lady.
Yes, thank you.
In the
Thank you so
center.
much. Thank you.
I apologize.
Guys, you better. Hey everybody, my name is Cris Njoki. I am the founder and CEO of fashion brand IKOJN, which is a made in Kenya fashion brand made for women by women. And I'm also a creator, and I'm so happy to be here with you guys.
And we still have hate because she's not making men clothes.
That's
personally.
Can you introduce yourself first?
First of all,
Can you introduce yourself
where
first?
that can go, man.
I now may go. Thank you so much for starting us so well. Peace and love on this panel, please. Waithaka Gatumia. I serve as CEO at Centonomy. We're here all about helping you to create wealth and live abundantly. That's our plan.
Look at you, man.
Yeah.
Mine's not super fancy. I'm Tonee Ndungu. I am CEO of Kitabu and Tribe, EdTech, FinTech. I'm in tech, and I've been in tech for 21 years this year. And it's just nice to be here.
21 years. My goodness. Firstly,
21 years.
How old are you?
21 years.
Actually, I think it's important to mention, I'm 45,
Wow.
right? And so there's a couple of things that are important about that we'll touch on. But one of the biggest challenges I'm seeing is a large stack of people, before we've already started the conversation.
Go on.
I apologize.
It's okay.
There's a large stack of people in their 40s and plus who are they're losing their careers and they don't know where to start. Right. And I can give you about 7,000 names, not names, but 7,000 people from the USAID, destruction that happened, who just don't know where to go, right? And as of right now, Trump has put out 141,000 people, average age 42, out of work. So there's that. When I say I'm 45, I don't say it because AJ. It's because people need to understand the opportunity is really there if you know how to take advantage of it. So to your question, I'm 45.
45 and alive.
Okay, so we've already learned so much from the panel.
Yeah,
Number
it's
one,
already.
ladies first. That's the first thing. And so what we're going to do now is jump into a quick fire round just to warm us up a little bit. So you've mentioned wealth already.
Yeah.
And all of us are entrepreneurs. We have a certain journey. I want you to finish the sentence. What does wealth mean to you? So start with wealth means X. Waithaka.
So many things, but we define it at Centonomy as the ability to live the lifestyle that you want without having to work. So there's an element of having assets And that's where real wealth is when you have an asset that generates, that's what you're looking for. Many of us, we are the asset in our lives. So it's our work that produces. And that's where we all start. And everyone should. But I think over a lifetime, it is about building other assets that generate money for you. They put money in your pocket. That's wealth.
I'm sorry. I asked
I'd
him first.
hate
I'm
to
so
come
sorry.
after that.
Like, I'm seriously, honestly.
He sat back.
Can we just say that that's all of us who said that?
Represented us.
I don't know, man.
Listen, Oscar said the level of this panel is we have to keep it at that level, please. Thank you.
We're cruising
Yes,
nicely.
yes, thank you.
Okay, to be honest, I think he just put it in many words, but for me, wealth is freedom. That's it.
Full stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. For me, wealth is unbridled time, which is the same thing as what the both of you said. I think there's a lot of us who have a lot of time, but that time is filled with worry and concern because you don't have, because there's lack. That's not time. I think for me, that's just stress. But for me, time is freedom, as she said, and asset, as you said, but it's peace. Having time with peace, that's for me the win. That's wealth.
Take it a little bit further. Join it to purpose. Because it's not just about owning stuff, but it's about when you say freedom and you say all those and time, it's about what matters to you. Because there are some people like in this world, they're teachers. You know, I remember that the Kenyan teacher, I think he was called Tabichi, I think, who won $1 million and gave it all away. Why? Because his purpose is serving. So he said that money should go and serve someone else. So that's true wealth, because he has the freedom to turn, to give away $1 million, even if it's not. So you define for yourself what you want. And if you're finding yourself in that same space, now we are together on purpose.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't even know about that teacher. Who's that? Tabichi?
Yes, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. He's from the Rift Valley. He's a religious man. I think the Opus Dei group, and so he was recognized by an international organization. I can't remember. This was many years ago. Won $1 million prize and gave it away.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Next question.
Now that's not me. If I won $1 million, hey, you would.
I'm very quiet. The rapid fire is not so rapid.
No, I have something to say. To that. Somebody who has raised $5.5 million for a company that I used to work in, you would think that the more money you get, the more joy you get. Notorious B.I.G. said the more money you have, the more problems you have. And that's true. And just starting with the basics of KRA, just the Kenya Revenue Authority. Then getting into the fact that we have a black tax culture where when you win, everybody and their mom and their aunt and the folks who live in the cracks in their houses feel like they own it with you. Problem number 2. And then problem number 3 is relationship. Like the entirety of a human existence is we're social beings. But you can't tell if somebody wants you for what you have or for who you are. And the more you have, the harder it is to tell what they want you for. Yeah. So I have met very few, and I've met many wealthy people, very few wealthy people who are happy.
True.
And so really Hollywood has misconstrued what joy and happiness looks like. Because if you start looking at, recently they said Finland is the happiest country on the planet. I was there like 5-7 weeks ago. Their biggest social quandary is how do they get their young people from killing themselves? And you're the happiest country in the world. Why again? So there's a lot of realities that we have to look at that have made wealth a misconception for so many people. And I think that there's more to the happiness, to time and freedom than just money. And I think that's something we should talk about.
I really want to tie what you've just said into the next question because it's part of the questions you had in the rapid fire. And it's about money myths. Like, what do you think are the biggest money myths that you have experienced as entrepreneurs and panelists here today?
High income is wealth. There's a difference between earning a lot of money and being wealthy. There's a difference. So you find a lot of people, especially in employment, you have a high income, which means like if you're working for the blue chip companies this side of the world, you can be earning $1 million, $2 million a month if you look at it, but you're actually poor. Because you're using the entire 1 million or the entire 2 million that you're earning a month and you're not building anything. And so once you lose your job, you're out of it completely. So having a high income is not the same thing as being wealthy.
It's really powerful.
Gosh.
I'm still thinking. Maybe
Can I add one more as she's thinking? Influencers like yourselves Fall in. No, the guys on this side of the table.
Running away.
Don't lie.
And the
influential.
No, keep going.
I'm going on it. Let me go on it. This is an amazing new industry which I highly respect and I'm so grateful for, but it's falling into the same trap where you have a lot of people who are now making a high income, but they're not building wealth. So they're making all the deals, but that money comes in and goes out.
Can I just talk to that, bro?
Please.
Let me tell you why I say I'm an influencer. Last video I've done actually on socials is the difference between an influencer and being an influential person. And like now, let me explain. You are now an influential person in the business space because you've actually done the work. Right? You're building out a business. You know what it's like to not have payroll or to stall on products, to deal with the Kenya Revenue Authority, to put together a brand, to hire people. You know what it's like. So what you've done is you've taken a bunch of people who have not gone through the experience you've gone through and you've roped them into your life. So now you're a key opinion former. Right. Before you were an influencer and you talk about everything from this product that I can put on my face to this thing I can drink to this outfit I can buy. But now I'm in a sector called entrepreneurship and I can speak to it. I've done the same thing with artificial intelligence. You've done the same thing with finance. And the thing that people are missing is fluff is so easy to depose. There's always going to be a more beautiful person than you. There's always going to be a smarter person than you. There's always going to be a more attractive, taller, smaller, whatever. But it's very difficult to replace an expert. Why are you spending so much time talking up products and not talking up yourself? And I think that's where I differentiate myself from an influencer. I am a key opinion former because I spend my time participating in activities that are building out a very specific sector with an intention of being an oligarch of that sector. Like, it's not even a lie. Like, I want to be the person that you call on when you want to talk about AI in Africa. Africa, not Nairobi. Africa. So I'll spend my money to go to Lagos, to go to Ghana, to go to Morocco, to go to SA, to go to Kigali. I'll do that because I'm trying to put myself in a place of influence. I'm just going to talk about AI like everybody else does. That's why I feel, to your point, my brother, that Waithaka is right in saying a lot of people do not know the difference between money and wealth. Very big difference. So I think
it's good. Yeah, it's good you're saying that because I think also when you think of the influencer space, a lot of the people getting into it are young, number one. So there's very little information even about money, wealth, building all this money that you're getting in that you've probably never seen before in your life. You didn't have to have any training, you didn't have to go to school. So it's basically like free money because you do a video like the one we did with Victor. That didn't require any training or anything. It was just like a funny video. We set up the phone and it was like, and then, you get all these brands coming on board. So it can almost feel very like shocking for somebody who hasn't been there and is not being paid. And there's just a lack of education around money and how to spend. Because now what happens is because they're very young and no one is giving them any sort of training, they get the money and they just assume that I need to now portray this lifestyle to get more brands on board. So it becomes a cycle where you're getting in and like you said, you have high income, but then it's coming out in now your lifestyle. Your lifestyle increases tremendously to where you have to now maintain this image. And it's happening a lot more than you can think. Like, I feel like every other influencer I meet, I'm just like, okay, you're obviously living above your
means.
Yeah. And for them, it's this thing of like, they know it's going to come back. They just need to keep doing more, showing more, and more brands will come and they just get, and it never ends. It's just a cycle.
It's crazy.
Waithaka, I'm curious because that scenario can happen in any industry. Right? Your income goes up, but then the lifestyle pressure makes your expenses go higher. Is there a general principle? Because we spoke about this last episode. When your check gets higher, how should you be managing this expenditure versus the income in general? Because a lot of people that watch this are young and they're getting their first checks, but it's arrived now. What do we do? What are the general principles you can advise?
So what we try and talk about is to live your life on purpose. So there are many rules, the 50-20, whatever rules. We at Centonomy, we never talk about that. It's about you taking control. Why? Because when we started this discussion, so let's be very clear. Everyone has a plan for your money. Including me. We have a plan for your money. If you don't have one, I will create one for you and I'll, so that we get it.
Right.
So what we're trying to get people to be aware and to make a plan. Why we don't talk about percentages at Centonomy is because percentages don't speak towards a goal. They don't speak towards ambition. So when I tell somebody who's earning 15K a month, you should save 10%, you should do this. 15K a month, simply saving and investing will never get you to the lifestyle that you are dreaming about.
That's right.
So part of your agenda is not just to save and invest from the 15K, but to actually have a plan on how you're going to increase the 15K. So it's that general awareness. But in terms of if you want just simple rules of thumb, number one, pay yourself first, which means any money that comes in, you save and invest before you pay your landlord, your relatives. If you're a person of faith like me, you pay your taxes, you pay your tithe, then you pay yourself. As in, so that you prioritize yourself. Second is awareness. So you have to know where your money is going. Most of us have no clue, including me when I started, I had no idea. I always tell the story of how I was spending more on takeout food than my rent. And that we discovered with my wife.
Crazy, bro.
And it's because we just didn't add it up, you know? And when we did, we were like, crazy. Anyway, and now we found a different way of doing it, right? And third is to really, and this is, if you don't get anything else, get this, focus on assets. Any money that you're putting aside and saving and investing should buy you something, an asset that begins to put money in your pocket. That's it. If you do those three things, you're growing.
Can I ask you a question around asset accumulation? Right. I've seen previous generations buy a lot of land.
Oh my
speculative
God.
man.
Hey.
Right?
We're going to get into it, bro.
Yeah, like I'm just asking as a young man, I'm just trying it out. So now we're entering our income generating ages. Yeah. So what type of assets should we prioritize for this generation that we're in? And when do we step it up into those, let's say, speculative assets kind of in our portfolio, adding that to our portfolio as well?
So
Can I before the expert speaks,
jump in.
let me speak to that.
Yeah.
Someone told me something. He's an ex-Wall Street gentleman, and he told me there are three kinds of assets. There are clever assets, there are intelligent assets, and there are mad assets. And I was like, clever, intelligent, mad. Explain those three to me. And within all of those, intelligent assets is when you divide it into speculative, short-term, long-term, mid-term, when you're looking at fluid assets, solid assets, all of that. And Waithaka is going to speak to it because I don't want to give information to folks when I'm not a financial expert. But the thing that he helped me understand is the problem with a lot of folks is they focus on intelligent assets and they focus on, what is the other one? Mad assets. No, sorry, clever assets. Okay. So intelligent assets are book smart assets. When you go S&P 500, index funds, MMFs, the stuff that everybody talks about. And clever assets are houses and flats and all of that. But they don't focus on mad assets. Mad doesn't mean foolish assets. And this was actually such a phenomenal thing for me because he helped me understand that the people that have made wealth are the ones who saw the dot-com bubble of 2000 and put money in it. And some lost, but a lot gained. And then exactly 10 years later, 2008, 2010, you remember it was the Bitcoin thing. What happened? People put money in that. A lot of people who put money in that did not regret it. And then 10 years after that, 10 years plus or minus, there was COVID, so there's a bit of a gap. But 2 years after that, something else showed up. And every time I ask people what happened in November 2022, a lot of the rooms are quiet. But that's when OpenAI released its platform. And in the last 2 years, more than 165,000 people have become millionaires because of AI. And very few of them on this continent. Because folks looked at the opportunities that were available and built something around it. Everybody in Perplexity owns a piece of Perplexity. Perplexity is an app that wraps up ChatGPT. These companies valued a couple $1 billion. Where are you at with your solution? All I'm saying is when Waithaka is going to speak to the kind of assets we're talking about, when we're thinking about assets, my parents own a beautiful Runda house that when my mom got cancer in 2017 and my dad got cancer in 2022, they couldn't leverage on to pay the 2.5 million shillings they need to pay in Nairobi Hospital for their medication. So you're sitting on a big ass asset you can't use, despite the fact that it's $1.5 million worth. So are you really wealthy or do you just have stuff? And that's the thing a lot of people need to understand. There's a very big difference between, and as we've talked, and we will keep hammering this into people's minds, wealth and dead assets, or we call it cash poor, house rich, or asset rich and cash poor. Be very careful what you're looking at. You're seeing somebody pushing a Range Rover. You're thinking they went and took their seed capital and bought a Range Rover. No, that's a tax deductible because their company made so much profit, they need to add expenses so that they don't pay KRA money. So they go and spend 42 million shillings on a car. You are trying to buy that car off 42 million shillings from something you've just... What is wrong with you?
I'd like to put a pin on that because you've touched on something, especially about trends and how Africa kind of doesn't necessarily benefit from these global technology trends. And because you're the technology expert here,
Let's put a pin on it. Yeah, let's go back to that. I talk about
get back
the
to you
thing.
with
Yeah.
But I really want you to speak on that speculative asset piece.
Let me
and
say-
land, and our grandfathers buying land, our
Let me tell you
mothers
what.
buying
And the pressure from our parents to buy
buy
land. Oh my God. I'm like, guys, please, I don't want.
Someone is bringing up some personal issues up in here.
Listen, Njoki. The thing is, okay, so land is still a factor of production, and so it's a powerful tool. So let's not say that land is not a good investment. It's just, what are you using it for?
Right.
So let me start, because you asked me what should we focus on, and this is going to frustrate people, but please listen, because it's not fancy. It's not, it's not it's not AI, it's not technology,
exciting.
it's all those different things.
Hey, you really killed it, man.
I want you to take it as soberly as possible.
Okay.
There's a guy called Housel, Morgan Housel, Psychology of Money. You've read that
Yeah, I
book.
read the book.
And he'll tell you this. The folks who truly build wealth over time, it is simply through discipline.
That's it.
So let me change that word. Consistency over time. It's not this wonderful, amazing investment that you do once and then things change.
Right.
But it's the guys who are consistent, just like you guys.
Right.
You've been doing this podcast, and
5 years.
it's about consistency. Same thing. Let me talk to that young guy who's just getting his first job. Get into the habit. Money comes in, you put some aside in a saving, and then you invest. So saving and investing are not the same thing. So save, you put aside cash that you can get in an emergency, what we're talking about. The other one, put where it'll get a compounding return. Even land can do that. You see, the thing is, it's not about the investment, it's about how you use it.
Right.
So if you're buying land, no problem. Buy it, wait a couple of years, sell, buy another one. Because it's actually growing in value. But the problem here is that you buy and hold, you never know when, you don't know what it's for, and eventually you just have land and nothing to do with it. Here, the key is the consistency is what's going to get you there. Because here, the number of investments that are out there, there are too many for us to talk about.
Right.
But if you pick one and you are consistent, starting in your 20s, by the time you're my age, in your 40s, you'll be a multi-millionaire through the consistency.
Now, the other question everybody has is like, who wants to make money and spend it when they're older? You want the money now when you're young and you can spend it, you can travel, and you can do all these things.
Yep.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but even, again, to the young people, it's boring. It's like, come on, like, isn't there a way
Yes.
you can still, be able to accrue wealth and whatever without having to wait until you're in your 50s to enjoy it?
Can I respond to that?
It's to be like Njoki and like Tonee.
Thank you. I was actually going to
That's
tell you
it.
that. I was actually going to say when I was in my, in 2009, we started the NILAB and we raised the 5.5, and I took some time out. In 2012, I was like 31. And that's what I did. I traveled. I went everywhere. I traveled the world and met people. Maya, one of my daughters, was over
When you
there.
say
just being
5.5,
bored.
what do you mean 5.5?
Oh, right.
$5.5
Thank
what?
you.
$1
Excuse me. I just raised 5.5.
Yeah, so I think the point is, if you want to do something that's not normally being done, then you have to invest or start something that's normally. In fact, this is a very good statement, and I really like it. If you want an outcome that's not normal, you have to start with what's not normal. There's a fancier way that said, and I think what you've done is actually really special because for a lot of folks, if you want to get return right now, then you have to take much bigger risks right now. But it's a very big risk that you've taken, right? Very big risk. And so let's assume, and I'm going to make some fake numbers, let's assume that the amount of money it costs you to build out what you built out right now is 2.5 million shillings, right? Let's just for assumption. Right. That 2.5 million shillings, you have to either get it from family, from a financial institution, or from some work that you've done.
Yeah.
How many people can come across that? So then let's even simplify that and say it's 250,000 for someone who's out of anywhere in Nairobi. Where are they getting that 250K to be able to start that? You have to take a risk, or somebody has to take a risk on you. Yeah. And a majority of the time, Kenyans, my dad does it really well. He says, Kenyans are Grogon businessmen. If you know Grogon, it's a street down over here next to Globe.
Yeah, it's called Odeon.
Odeon,
So
yes.
let me get you 5.5 million.
I know Grogon, bro. So over here, and the thing is, if you go down Grogon or any of those roads, every second shop is selling the exact same things.
Spare parts.
And that is the problem with a lot of the young folks who are doing businesses in Kenya. They're seeing her do her thing. So because Cris has done it and she's doing it well, or this is us who's doing the same thing, or somebody else, they're going to be like, there must be a market in there. Oh my God, no, there isn't. They've already saturated. They've already taken a majority of the folks. Could you do something for them, though? Could you do her packaging? Could you do her delivery? Could you do her website? Could you do her AI bot when it's chatting with people? Could you add value to what people are doing, which is what Amazon came and did, and Amazon is what it is right now. And I think the problem with most folks is they don't want to be originals. They want to be copies of other people who have succeeded, not knowing how many dead bodies these folks have left on the side of the streets.
Tony, can I push
how
back?
long?
Yeah, can I push back on that a little bit?
Push back.
I think that we're building a unique and differentiated business requires a certain level of not just skill, but a certain level of exposure that a lot of Kenyans might not necessarily have.
That's an excuse. Can I
It's
tell
not
you
an
why?
excuse. Let me get you there.
Bring me. In fact, I put my mic over here.
Yeah,
Wait for you.
let me get you there. Because one of the things that you'll find is that, yes, if somebody builds, I'm happy with someone building a copycat business in a sense, right? But you also have to remember that what you've used the example of Amazon optimizing off of an existing value chain, but there are businesses like what we're seeing in China, where they're doing the things that they're seeing in the US,
Right.
and then they're scaling it within their context, and then contextualizing those businesses for themselves, and then also like operationalizing them and achieving the wealth and success that another business can have. So I think it's a question of, look, I might look at IKOJN and say, you know what, I like the way she's streamlined fashion for women. I like the way she's done a 99% inclusive women business. And I say, but men are missing that.
Yes.
So let me go and serve men the way IKOJN is doing it. You see, it's not necessarily an original idea like that.
That's unique.
But I am stealing like an artist.
No, but that's unique. No, that's unique. That's different.
So this is it. So you guys have jumped a stage, and that's the problem.
Okay. Go.
So you said I will not name any street because I
Yes.
know that even on that street there are some good businessmen and good
100%.
businessmen. Let me just I will not name. But in this country and on this continent, there's a failure to understand how business works.
Okay.
And that's the issue. So that we have many businesses which are essentially survival businesses, or you would call them what is it called? Like, you know, when you're farming and you only eat what is that? Subsistence.
Yes.
Subsistence businesses. So you're generating value, but that value is only enough to sustain you. The difference between such a business and an actual business that can scale or grow over time is that in business, your aim is to generate profit. Most of our businesses are not profitable.
Yeah.
They simply sustain the business owner. So when I'm selling sausages and eggs on the side of the road, I am only making enough money to sustain me. It's not even paying me for the value that I'm producing. So it's giving me money to go and eat, pay my rent, pay my school fees, and nothing else.
And be back there the next
And get
day.
more sausages.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's it.
That's
it's
it.
it's subsistence. It
Correct.
is a survival business. So if we don't crack that issue, because now you are talking value chains, you're talking about, you know, adding and different things. People,
Exposure.
we're not there. Get that business. So let's use a local example. So you guys know Mudhokinjo. Isn't that a hardware store?
Yes. Yeah.
It is a
Massive.
hardware store.
It's crazy.
It is the same principle of that hardware store that is on those roads that you are mentioning,
Facts, yeah.
but they've taken it and they understand what profitability is. And they've said, now, how do we implement that on our shows? It's a hardware store. That's it. So, sorry, continue now with the value chains and other things.
No,
Like,
can I-
don't
Can I
mind.
actually
But
add to
then,
that
yeah,
point?
let me get you there.
Understand how business
Let me
works.
just interrupt you a little bit, and say, so first of all, we've agreed what you've just said in the men doing what IKOJN's doing
Yeah.
is a differentiator. But then let's get to exposure. When I was 20 years old, there was no Facebook, there was no YouTube. We were using dial-up. Actually, YouTube was there, but it wasn't the YouTube you know now. We were using dial-up. So for me, there was a song that was a hit, and I remember this was so interesting. The song was Justin Timberlake's "Love Stoned." And I loved it. And I wanted to listen to that song over and over. And the full song is about 7.5 minutes long. And I remember putting it on my father's PC computer and going to sleep as the song downloaded on that dial-up network so I can listen to the song the next day. That's 25 years ago. And I felt like I was connected because I had the internet on dial-up. Remember that noise? You guys have TikTok. We all have TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and everything that goes in between.
Google.
Exposure is no longer an excuse for you to be incapable of doing something, especially because every single person's phone should have an AI chatbot on it. So if you think exposure is the issue and information is literally, like it's not a lie, literally at your fingertips, you are the problem. Now, not to say that we don't have the skill set that you have mentioned. Yes, profitability is a core thing, and having business essence and just learning how to do business is important. But I, Tonee, have done 100 videos, stacked them up, put them on our website, put them on Vimeo, and posted them for folks to be able to watch about how to build a business from scratch. Me. So I'm not even saying it's on YouTube. I'm saying I've done it. And you have no excuse as to why you're not able to sit down for 100 hours. Those things were 10 minutes each, so they're 4 hours or 3, and watch what it takes to start a business. Everything from going onto eCitizen and registering a business to talking to an investor, to asking for somebody, here's a piece of my company in exchange for 1,000 shillings, to coming up with your first product.
Tonee,
excuse.
The reason why I have to push back on that particularly aggressively is because I don't think that's the reality of the Kenyan youth today. And when I say that's not the reality of the Kenyan youth today is a lot of the youth are unemployed. So before they sit down and start watching TikTok videos, they find themselves having to do businesses that sustain them, that are essentially subsistence businesses that will take them from one point to B, right? So they don't have that extra cash. The second thing that's also a trouble for a lot of the young people as I've seen and interacted with is access to capital. There's no place where somebody can come and say, I have this fantastic idea, I've been doing it for this long and I want to raise cash. If somebody who's been doing that consistently, like the IKOJN before us, might also have challenges raising capital. What about the young man in his room who doesn't have that mommy and daddy and to say akinipatie so that they can be able to do that? My first business when I was 18, in fact, the man who I started that business with is holding a camera here today. We started a beekeeping business. And we put money together through cold sweat and tears when we were just like 500 bob our pocket money, started a beekeeping business. And do you know what happened? People came and stole our beehives. And you see like that's those. So you see these challenges that we are having are not necessarily a challenge of information. It's a challenge of we might not necessarily be in a conducive environment to be able to actually build highly scalable businesses. When you have outliers like yourself sitting here and talking about how businesses can be scaled, how we can do them, how we can do all these amazing things and raise 5.5, that's not the reality for guys who are living in Buru.
Can I push back?
Guys, before we start before we're pushing. Waithaka, you mentioned that we're missing some steps, right? And I think if we dial it all the way back to identifying the passion, because yes, you can know the theory of running the business, but I want to ask both of you in your fields, how do you identify that this is the thing that's going to get to the wealth we're talking about, which is peace, which is time? Because some guys might miss all of this, but resonate with passion. Because I think that's where all of this basically starts. So Tonee, from the dial-up, how do you identify that this is where my passion and time is going to be spent?
I don't believe in passion.
Okay.
At all. I believe in profit. Back to your point. I don't think there's anything wrong with being passionate about the thing you're doing. I think that's what's going to keep you going because you need grit to survive. And that's, I think, why she's doing what she's doing. But I think at the end of the day, if your passion is not going to pay your bills, not going to pay your staff, not going to pay your people. And then to your point, because I like that you're talking about how... I've been auctioned 4 times. You're hearing the success story because everybody hears the planes that fly. Everybody hears about the planes that crash. They don't hear about the planes that fly. In business, it's the other way around. You're hearing about the successes, but you're not hearing about how hard it's been. So what that you came from an area that doesn't have much? You want to talk to Ken Odede from Shofco? He tells you how he came from nowhere. I mean, there's always going to be an excuse for you to stay at the bottom. But if you decide within yourself that no one's going to hold me down, it doesn't matter how badly off you are, things will work. A majority of the time, when we were running the thing that raised that $5.5 million, we didn't even have furniture. We went to Ngong Road, bought block boards and construction wood, stuck it under, cut it with a power saw, and called that a table for 2 years. People didn't come to our office because it looked like a workshop. That's where we started. And a lot of people forget that it's the only thing that stands between you and your success. And this is so personal because you really have to decide. The only thing that stands between you and your success is the choice you make every day of what you're going to let beat you down or not. I had a security guard, who used to be a gangster, who one day got tired and said, I'm going to take these weapons that I've gotten and all this money that I've stolen, give it back, and I'm going to start a new life. He did that the week before his best friend, who was also a gangster with him, got burnt on the street. If he was with him, he would have died the same way. And it is that choice that he made that day that gave him that freedom. To your question, I think what we need to understand is there's those nice, important, emotional, let me call them frameworks that we have, like, good friends, good family. And that doesn't have to be a mother-father situation, just people around you that get you to where you need to go. Those structures are important. But the thing that really matters is actually what Waithaka has said. In as much as you want to push something forward, you have to learn as you push the thing forward how to do the thing right. Because after 5 or 6 frustrations and failures, you give up. But if you have the right mindset around a product or a service or a thing, what you're going to find yourself doing is you're always going to, and I think success is really preparation plus opportunity. You're always going to find yourself preparing yourself constantly. You're going to be trying and trying and trying. It could work, it couldn't work. You're going to be trying and trying until one day something flips. Then it's your turn. I'm a believer as well. And my Bible says life and chance happens to them all, which means there's no one who's going to miss an opportunity to have an opportunity. The question is, are you prepared when that opportunity comes?
And I'm going to say especially what you mentioned about, there's a lot of young people who don't have a capital to start their businesses. I'm going to oppose that because even for me starting IKOJN, and I've said this story so many times, I literally started the brand with 200 shillings, and I used to thrift before I started the brand. I took the 200 shillings, I bought 4 dresses worth 50 shillings each, and I used to sell them on Facebook. I take a picture, put it on Facebook, sell it for 1,000 bob. And that's literally how I grew money to start IKOJN. I was able to grow 1.5M through thrifting for a year and a half. And then I started my brand.
I just want us to stop for a second
Yeah.
and just see.
I'm saying.
This is what I'm saying.
I'm saying it's possible. It's literally a choice.
That's it.
You have to say, okay, fine, that's my goal. What am I going to do? And that's what I did 10 years ago. We're literally turning 10 this year.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's it.
So let's add to that, because I think we are also a little bit privileged on this table that you went to school. You probably had family who were supporting you. So when you hear the story of I don't know the full story, but when you say I started with 200 bob, that 200 bob was not what you were eating that day. So there's a slight difference,
Right.
but it is valid.
Yeah.
So let me show you what I mean by taking care of opportunities, because that's what Eli was asking about. So I don't know today we are talking about security guards. I don't know why. But it's a story I told. In the apartment that we had a guard. And the guard used to come, essentially he sits there, opens the gate. By 11, most of the people are home, and then he sleeps, essentially until morning and goes.
You're all sleeping.
So, and you can imagine he was probably earning around 13,000 a month, okay?
Right.
Then some of us asked in the evening, please wash my car. Before you knew it, now he was earning more from washing the cars than from his actual job
Facts.
in the evening.
Nice.
Now, what that does is that it now begins to generate capital for what he'd like to do. So let's not give ourselves excuses. To generate capital is not an easy thing, but it's possible. It's for, and many times the issue is that we've never sat down and challenged ourselves to say, what could I do? Even as an employee. So let's talk to the young guys who are employed as well. So you're sitting and waiting, boss, please give me a promotion or increase my pay. Why? Start off with the issue of value. Have you offered value to your employer? Because if you become valuable, I'm stealing that from Dr. Miles Monroe, money will chase you. And you can see those guys in employment. You see guys who enter an organization, they are promoted in a few, before you know it, they're poached by another organization, they keep moving. Why? Because they're building value. So to everyone who's listening to this, I'm not trying to say that it is easy. No. Easy is not, but is it possible? Yes.
And I want to add to that, because I think the thing that you're going to eat one of two things. You're going to eat the output of your voice. And if you say you can, you're right. If you say you can't, you're also right. So anytime I get into a situation where people are finding excuses for them not to succeed, I tell them that's what you're going to eat. You're going to eat your excuses for why you can't succeed. I came from a poor family. I came from this. I came from this. I have had debt in the tens of millions. So it's one thing to say that you came from a poor family or we are privileged on this table or whatever. That's cool. Tens of millions. Still paid the debt out, got out, made profit, and started the cycle again. So I'm not even afraid of debt in that way. There's good debt, there's bad debt, long conversation. But essentially, what you've got to learn to do is bet on yourself, because no one's going to do it for you. So stop giving yourself an excuse of my background is. Who told you it's going to be easy? Who said that? Where is it written that your life's going to be easy? It's not. It's going to be hard, but you're better than that. You're stronger than the challenges that God has placed before you. So please pick them up and do them. And I keep telling, my daughters are here. I usually like bringing them out for these things so they can be able to see some of the conversations we have, because they have 12 and 14. When, again, Bible scripture story, when David was taking care of sheep and a lion showed up, there was no audience. It was him, the lion, and the sheep. That was it. He didn't do it to impress anyone. He did it because he knew his survival was based on it. A little bit later, a bear shows up. Why do I have two animals to deal with? Whether it's a week later or a year later, it doesn't matter. Again, same situation. It was the bear, it was him, it was the sheep. That's all he had. He didn't know that at some point there'd be a Goliath in front of him. And this time the whole nation would be paying attention. He had practice in private. So practice in private. When you're trying to build a business, trying to bob, try it. If it fails, cool. Try something new. If it fails, okay. Try something new. If it fails, okay. Like the point of your 20s is to try and fail. It's not to try and get on social media and show people how you're living the life. Stop that rubbish. You're wasting yourself. And by your 30s, we don't even know you, right? So that's where it is. That's where my head is at.
That's fast. Guys, as you can see the passion in the audience. I hope you're still with us. We even forgot you're on a panel.
You even forgot the 5 questions.
We have gone. We've gone. So like, share, subscribe if you're liking what you're seeing. And please, if you have any other questions that you'd like us to forward to the panel at a future date, please send them to us. This conversation is very passionate. Ilan, you've been very quiet. My co-host, ask your questions.
I want to speak on his behalf.
I know.
I'm sorry. This is something that I want us in our culture to do a bit more. We need to support one another a lot more.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this video, it costs you absolutely nothing to hit subscribe.
Yeah.
It costs you nothing. It costs you nothing to hit like, or even if you don't like it, also hit dislike.
Something.
It costs you almost nothing to write a comment in the chat. It makes such a big difference for these guys at zero cost to you for the amazing value they've brought. So please do. What is asked, please do. Subscribe, hit the, what is that? Bell. All those things. It's free, but it makes such a difference. Please do.
It does. But thank you so much for that.
Oscar, make sure you slide in the money. But I want to talk about fear, okay? Because you said you're not scared of debt. You said that you took a bet on yourself at 200 bob. The mindset towards fear, how has that played a part in your journey up until now?
So maybe I can begin. I know for me, I went to fashion school and I knew I wanted to have a business, but I was scared out of my mind because when I was in school, all of my other friends were doing other things, right? So they were doing the meds, they were doing like, lawyer. They were doing like big, school things. I was there just like in fashion school, learning how to stitch. I was like, oh yeah, tailor. It was like, there was pressure, you know? And so after I finished school, everyone's like going into their big jobs, corporate jobs and everything. And I was like, okay, I'm here now. I finished my schooling. My dream was to start my own brand. But then what if I do all that? Like I start my brand and I went through the whole process and then it's not even good. Like what if no one even likes it? Because then that means I wasted my time. It means I did this thing that was like so cool and like artsy, but then everyone will just look at me like, okay, So I was under a lot of pressure and that actually is what made me, that was like my excuse for raising money. So that was my time for raising capital. So I was like, okay, before I start it, maybe I need money. Okay, how do I get money? So then that's when I started thrifting. That was really easy for me. I actually did it longer than I needed to because I had my target for, I think I needed about 1.1 thereabout. But then I extended it by about 3 more months because I was so scared of starting my brand. And I remember I had a chat even with my parents. My dad was like, come on. You're not here to do thrifting. Like that was not why you went to school. That was not your goal. You explained you want to start your own brand. So you need to stop that thrifting and actually start it, But I was scared. I was so fearful, mostly of what other people would think or like if nobody liked my product, and then I did all that for waste. But I did it. And, some stuff happened in the beginning that actually I lost all the money I'd saved. So it was just like with production. Yeah, because I went to China and I produced from there. And basically the quality was all really bad. And so I lost all my inventory. Like I couldn't sell it. So I basically lost all the money I'd saved for a year and a half. But even then, I just started again. I literally just raised a bit more money, with what I had. I started and we just did it like very, very small, step by step. But I think that really taught me that, okay, fear is going to be a part of me whether I like it or not, And even to this day, there's things I want to do and I'm scared. Like I get really, really fearful. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, and then even if I'm scared, if it doesn't work, and then, you know what I'm saying? And then, do you know, because then you even start looking, I think it got me to this place where I was like, meeting more people, I realized every one of us gets scared. Everyone. Like it's not a thing that's just me because I'm small or like I'm a woman or I'm younger or whatever. Everyone gets scared. Probably even the president, gets scared. Everybody. And so when I came to terms with that, I was like, okay, fear is a part of me. But then it's there and then you just push through, even when you're scared. So that's what I was.
So you're saying you've basically been able to live parallel to fear as you're going through life, right?
And just accepting it, just being like, it's fine.
I don't know if there was an ad. I don't know if it's Anduan or somebody who came up with the phrase, do it afraid. And I think that's what it is. Do it afraid. Yeah. Of course you do it afraid. I have a story. I did a G7, I had a G7 invite. And when I was flying from where I was for that G7 invite, I didn't even know I was going to be part of this speech. I personally, I just, I've never been to Rome. I'm going to be first time, whatever. And so you land, you go, you find a hole in the wall hotel was like 100 euros, where literally, if I threw my bag's going to hit me back because it's such a small room. There's no space. Like it's like a window which you open and you peep, and then it shows you the neighbor's window. It was such a very basic. But then I walked out, went for this meeting, and at the meeting, I'm being moved from the circle outside to the circle inside. Badges of the people in the community around me are changing color as I get in. But I cannot move. I couldn't understand why I'm moving through all of these security departments, but the people walking me through couldn't get in. And I didn't understand why I'm being taken, what is happening? So it's a very strange situation until I'm walked into this room with a round table inside a round table inside a round table. And I'm like, I've never seen that before. It's a big room, lights everywhere. It was looking crazy. And the lady who took me in held my hand and walked me to the center table. And the moment I sat down and put on my headphones, the speaker, who was Italian, said in Italian, I had in the translation, the African entrepreneur has come and he is going to give us his speech. No one had prepped me for a speech. I'm still trying to figure out where I am in Rome. I've been lost for 20 minutes. The complete combobulation. I was so panicky. Have you ever sweat until you feel your sweat dripping down your shirt? You have a jacket, you sweat. I was trying to wipe off my face and I could feel my knees hitting each other. I had 3 minutes and I delivered a speech in 3 minutes that was watched from people I know, was watched by Bill Gates, because he told me he watched it and he really liked it. It was watched by 6 or 7 people.
He told you
he told
because
we had breakfast.
No,
we had breakfast
he
later.
didn't like email you. Like he told you.
I don't know if I should say that.
No, tell us.
No, my point is that my point is that you never know the opportunity that is going to open up an opportunity for you that you can never have back. And if you let fear control you, then you're going to miss something you never even knew you could be able to do because you decided there were no facts that you had. You decided this is not for me. And that's what fear is. Fear is a decision that this is not for me. That's what fear is. And I decided this is for me. I was still afraid, but this is for me. And that video, I put it on socials and it's moved around quite a bit. And it's because of that video, single-handedly, I blame that video for a lot of the opportunities I'm receiving right now, working with good folks like the UNDP, whether it's CDO or RBA, these are just acronyms, or folks out of Cassava, who are the guys who are doing an AI solution down in South Africa. Like I can name 50 different people who have reached out to me on levels I'd never reach out to them or engage with them on LinkedIn because of that video. And it's just, for me, a testament to how a very small opportunity thrust in your way can be the difference between you winning and you losing. And that fear is that thing that looks meaningful until you walk past it and you realize it was just smoke and mirrors.
Eli, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Why would you get into this business of production media, why? It's full, isn't it? There are millions of producers around the world with much more money than you. So why would you get into it yourself?
Do you know, I think opportunity preparation, I think when it came to this media business, it was a case of meeting Oscar at the right time.
Yeah.
It was a case of the passion I talked about earlier,
Yeah.
coming at the right time, and then realizing that after I tried once, there was a good result. Then I was like, how can I grow that result over time?
Yeah.
That's essentially how it started with me. And as it's gone on, the challenges I've only got through the challenges because I know you don't like passion, because that passion has been there, because we've run this for 5 years, self-funded. And it becomes a place where it's not about money, it's about what you're hearing from certain people. You go to a restaurant, someone stops you, you saved my life. You can't put a price on that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
So the thing that's pushed me is other people and the impact we've had on them.
Can I give it another word? It's faith. Now, I'm not talking about faith,
I see.
religious
I
faith.
see what you've just done there.
I'm just saying those who make it believe they will make it.
It's belief.
And it's not always belief because of what they can see. Like there's an element that you can be able to see. I've raised my 1.5 million, so I should start. But there was still fear.
Yeah.
And you had to push through that because you said, there's something. I don't know yet, but there's something. And so I would encourage people, and I think anyone who's an entrepreneur, anyone who's found success, it's faith. If you go for that job interview, you have to be pushed. You have to push through the fear because you believe you can get the job.
That's right.
And there's power in faith that will take you to places you can't believe. Yes, we shouldn't be preaching, but I will preach anyway. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Yeah.
So it means it's not in front of you, but you believe it'll come out.
That's it.
And those people who believe are the ones who actually achieve those goals.
And I just want to say something to the passion. I believe in passion. Don't get me wrong. But do you see what your prophet was? Your prophet was somebody saying that if you didn't do that, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
That's profit. It's not capital profit.
Invaluable.
But that's validation that, I mean, come on. Eli, this is a big deal. Like, let's not pretend that Man Talk is not a big deal. Like, this is a very big deal podcast, right? This is not a joke. Like, what you and Noah have done is phenomenal. You've been doing this. There are times when your own personal brands and your personalities were on the line. You guys got shook down many times. Passion is a requirement to be able to do this. Grit is fueled by passion. But I don't think the passion in itself is what's going to drive you. It's the profit, whatever you gain from it. It's that thing of knowing you have taken a generation of young men in this country and those who watch around the continent and the world, and you've given them a place to come for guidance. No one else has put the three of us on a panel. No one else has taken the information they have from us. And no one else has put these people out in the room to be able to put the story out. So own who you are. And in owning who you are, you find the profit that is then that passion that drives. You know what I mean? So you've done the reverse. And I just want to say one small thing. Because I think to your point of belief, right? I think there's a really big thing that people do not understand, that I've come to understand very quickly as I've gotten older. There's something powerful about recognizing and sitting in the power of yourself, of who you are. No validation. Because I've seen what people cheer for, so I don't care when they boo me. I saw that and I was like, let me tell you. Khalif Cairo has been put through the ringer because this boy took some very crazy risks. One day, he will succeed at those risks. And then where will all his haters be?
Yeah.
Buying cars.
I'll tell you the trouble that's been there, especially in Kenyan media, is this whole thing about sensationalizing people's failures. I avoid that. Like, you can't believe. Man Talk as a principle, we've had situations where people have come on set and said things that were detrimental to them, and we had to edit it out as a team, where we're like, this person has put themselves in harm's way. They don't know that they've done that. Remove that. So that they don't end up harming themselves.
Right. And
that sensationalization of failure in this country, it perpetuates this narrative that the youth are much more ignorant, much more incapable than they actually are. For example, that Khalif Cairo story, I do agree that there are some decisions that have been made that have been very negative on his side. And I try to avoid that discussion as well. There's a guy called Kasmuel as well, who's like put himself out there politically. There's a lot of decisions that he's made that are bad. I agree, and maybe there are repercussions that he'll get for that. But also at the same time, I'm also in that room of, Yeah, but he's young. He's a young man trying to understand.
Right.
Yeah, but he's
He's on the pitch.
Yeah, he's on the pitch
He's on the
playing.
pitch.
Yes.
Remember what Brene Brown said?
Yeah.
Seated,
Yeah,
he's
you're
there.
seated, you're in the
Yeah,
stands.
exactly.
He's on the pitch.
Yeah, he's on the pitch.
He's
And
playing
this
the
is-
game.
And low-key, this is also why I love Gen Z so much. Because Gen Z, they tell you, boss, increase that tax. We outside.
Yeah.
We coming out.
Yeah.
You'll find us there. You try and do anything crazy. We know our constitutional rights. These are children who've been raised on the constitution.
They've been raised
So
different.
you see, they've been raised different. They've been bred different. So like, I can see in a way, legacy systems are fighting back against the youth. And the way they do it is they use media as a tool to sensationalize young people's failures.
And I just want to speak to that because Jeff Bezos says it, and I will always use folks who everyone can access. I don't want to say a name that you don't know because if I say Tim Ferriss, maybe you don't know. If I say Jeff Bezos said it, and he said the reason why the US has done so well is because there's so much risk capital, one, and two, failure isn't a detrimental thing.
Yeah.
Because there's a respect to the person that's played the game,
Yes, and
tripped
failed,
over,
yes.
and failed. You've learned things that kids in business schools haven't.
Can never.
If IKOJN fails and she tries to build a business, I have more faith in her than I have a newbie who's
The
never
second
done
time,
it.
yeah.
Because she did some things that worked and she did some things that didn't work and she wants to try some new things now.
100%.
I have more faith in you, but I bless your work, it made work, right? But you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, we
Degenerate people who have made mistakes, what you miss is the greatest lessons are never written through success. The greatest lessons are written through failure. You learn the most through heartbreak, being broke or poor, being fired from a job. That's when you learn the most.
Spine to the wall.
The things you're going to learn there, you can learn nowhere else. So I think for a lot of folks, what they need to appreciate and what they need to learn is when you see somebody falling in the ground or going through a hard time, please do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor.
Avoid.
And avoid talking down on them.
Avoid.
Because the judgment with which you give them,
Is the
I
same
guarantee
one.
it's going to come back to you.
Yeah, and we're speaking biblically. You know, when Jesus was writing his fingers on the sand when Mary Magdalene was getting stoned. And he was
did.
like, let he who has not sinned cast
Cast the first stone.
Yeah.
So please.
Now, can you imagine if you cast that stone in front of God? What would have happened then? We don't know what he was writing on that sand. It might have been a bomb. You know, you don't know because no stone was cast. People are wiser.
And think about it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people miss this because if you look at the political infrastructure of our country over time, every oligarch of one era who oppressed another group was always deposed. And then the other group had that power. And then again, that group was deposed. This is a cycle. But even from the Roman days, it's a cycle. There's a time the Roman Empire was heavenly. No one could ever fathom that this thing would be overrun.
Yeah.
We're barely looking for stones of the Roman Empire less than a century later. The US was a powerhouse, wasn't it? We were looking at America as the source of China.
Yeah.
What's happened? They've been there 5,000 years. You think you're going to overrun them with a 200-year-old country? These are the realities of the life we live in. Recognize that everything is a cycle.
Yeah.
Top,
I'm
bottom.
gonna shift this to another direction because this is a very powerful. I feel like this is a very powerful panel. I hope you can feel it if you're at home. This is like right now, this table is hot. So the next question I have for the panel is around policy and policy making, right? So we are currently in the middle of a lot of global tumult, and you remember I put a pin on your question around regulatory like trends, trends that exist in technology, and how Africa has not necessarily like capitalized on these trends. I want us to speak a little bit about that. What policies can we put in place to allow African entrepreneurs to actually step into those spaces that create mad assets and mad businesses? What can we do to make life easier for people who are looking to start businesses and looking to participate in the economy as you have?
I have so many answers, but I'm going to let my respected colleagues to speak.
If you're president for a day,
Oh, man.
go crazy.
I don't know that I would want to be president. I mean, there's a heavy weight to carry a nation. And so I will say this. In my humble opinion, I don't believe you can tax growth. I mean, you can tax into growth.
No, you can't.
So tax it has to be there. There has to be a way for the government to be able to collect resources to run the country. But where growth happens is when you enable entrepreneurs like the wonderful folks who are seated on this table to grow as fast as possible, to access credit, to access capital, to move freely. So let me say this. Kenya is, and the problem on Africa is that we are very small markets. And so the potential for a business to grow is difficult because the business it's difficult to go across. I'm sure Tonee will talk about this, and I'm sure even Njoki, if you've tried to sell across borders, you know what it's like. We are now, this is 16 years of Centonomy, now is when we have a class in Uganda, for example. It's just that hard to move across borders, okay? So if we can do a lot more work about opening borders so that markets can open for business, I think that's where we'll see huge growth. If you look at the economies that are biggest in the world, it's because they have big populations, and so they have enough to sell even within themselves. If you're in the States, if you open in the West Coast, you can sell across to 350 million people. You know what I'm saying? In China, the same. In India, the same. But here on Africa, if you're in Kenya, we only have 50 million people you're going to sell to. And even those 50 million people, you don't have the infrastructure to get to them.
And half of them are children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we can work on opening markets, that would be a huge deal, and making it as easy as possible for business owners. And there's been, let me tell you, there's been traction in that direction. I think we just need to do more. That's it.
Incredible.
Yeah. I think for me, when it comes to policies, I'm going to speak from my experience running a fashion brand, is I made the decision to run a brand that's 100% made in Kenya, right? My dream would be for everything in our,
Supply chain.
in the supply chain to actually come from Kenya. But all of our raw materials come from outside. They come from China. We import them. Even if we don't import them directly, if we source them locally, they've been imported, right? And for me, that's just... And the thing is, there was a time when we produced those raw materials in Kenya. There was. It's not that we've never done it before. There was a time when we were very high, even exporters of cotton, we were producing a lot of, all of these raw materials. And I think for me, it just needs to go back there, it's going to be very difficult to grow even more creative economy. Like now, anybody else trying to start a business like I am, you're finding everybody is just importing. So then it becomes, it's so volatile because if anything changes anywhere in the market, it's like directly impacts your business. And then that means you're either having to lay off a couple of workers or you're having to downscale, there's too many variables. So we do not have control over the things that actually affect your business, And it just needs to go back there. So I feel like policy-wise, we need to get back to a place where we can sustain ourselves, as a nation, because we have the capability, we have the manpower. I mean, with all the youth right now, come on, we can do it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do tariffs affect your business? Any export tariffs, import tariffs, do they affect the textile industry as you operate in it right now?
Right now, no. Okay. Right now, no. But of course, there's high costs when it comes to importing, just like the import taxes, those ones, yes. But the tariffs, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it will not be a direct effect. But you see, if inflation is going to hit because we exporters are having a harder time, we're not getting as much foreign currency coming into the nation, all those are factors.
The macro factors.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not a good thing. But even if it's not direct, there's an indirect effect.
There's an implication,
I also think so whether you're a net importer or net exporter country, there's a value proposition there that needs to be discussed. You said something really powerful. You can't tax yourself into success. It doesn't work, right?
It's called a Laffer curve. If you're on the wrong side of that Laffer curve.
That can be a challenge, right? But I think that the opportunity is always there. And the baseline thing we need to look at is long-term thinking. There are more than 50,000 companies in Japan that are more than a century old. 50,000 businesses in Japan that are more than a century old. And one of them is calligraphy. And the ink that is used for calligraphy, the more expensive the ink, the longer the ink has stayed. I'm going to use the word ripening, but because I don't have a good word for it.
Like a wine.
Like a wine, right? I don't know what to say. Fermenting, I'm not sure. But the longer the ink stays, the more expensive it gets. These ink blocks that are 57 years old, just waiting to be bought at $200 a gram. A gram. When you think long term, you make decisions today that are going to impact not your children or your children's children, your children's children's children. Practical example. 4 weeks ago, China said every child in China is going to learn AI because they're going to integrate it into their curricula. The next week, Trump was like, we're going to do the same thing. It's quiet now, but you're going to see in Europe, they're going to start doing the same thing because they have looked to the future and they've seen that artificial intelligence is a systemic change in the way we learn and we do our work. And the next big and final change will be robotics, where you don't even drive yourself somewhere. You don't set up cameras by yourself. So what are humans going to do in that era? Policy is not just about sorting out situations right now. It's about thinking forward. It's about looking at what the world's going to look like later. And for a government, if I was president today, if I wanted to raise taxes on my people because I've got an insurmountable amount of bills I need to pay, whether it's the World Bank or the IMF, or just to sustain my country, the first thing I do is I empower my people to make more money from the small things that they have. How do I make it so that Ghana is visa-free, Botswana, Kenyans can be able to enter without visas. South Africa is now visa-free. Kenya is visa-free for folks to come. Can I talk to the people around me so that we can be able to get folks in TZ and UG? What can I do with the East African bloc? What can I be able to do so that her business, when it's registered in Kenya, is automatically registered in Uganda and Tanzania and Somalia and Ethiopia and these countries around us, so that if she needs to hire people out of UG, she doesn't have to go and start dealing with their legal system. Start her business already registered in this single repository. How do we create, and there was something that was happening out of the Africa Global Summit, the Global AI Summit of Africa in Kigali, where they wanted to create a singular database of whether it's people for travel or businesses, policies that allow us to be able to do what Europe has done in making everybody just move in a single market, as you've mentioned, is the first thing we should do, and not even for the continent, just for the region. We are laughing at what challenges we face as a country with a sorrow because we are feeling overwhelmed and defeated. But there's a gentleman out of Burkina Faso who has come and just shown the world that Africa can do things.
Possible, yeah.
And he's shown that between me, my brother in Mali, and my brother in, I forget the other country that he's working with, the third one, we've come together and look at him every day. He's opening up a cashew nut store. He's taking back his gold that France had been stealing for so many years. He's building different kinds of relationships within and around him. And all three countries went to Morocco saying, we need a port. Do you mind if we use yours? And they have started learning how to leverage on each other to do life-changing things. And just as a pack, those three countries, the gold repositories in those three countries are worth noting, because a lot of the European countries have built their especially France, has built its net worth based on what came out of both Mali and Burkina Faso. Kenya is the same. Why can't we come up with policies that advance us for the longer term? It's doable.
The whole point of Man Talk has always been to have empowering conversations. And what we've had today has literally been what we set out to do. So I want to say on behalf of both of us, thank you to all of your insights. Thank you to your stories and the advice you've given everyone watching. Your parting shot, I want to ask all of you, when everything's said and done, and then plug your handles, when everything's said and done, what do you hope people get from you online and in person? We'll start this side, I think.
Ladies first, always.
Lessons have not been learned.
Did we not do this?
Lessons have not been learned.
Session like this.
Cris Njoki, please.
Could you repeat that?
When it's all said and done, what do you hope people get from you online and in person?
I think I'm going to say something that my dad said to me. My dad said to me when I was starting my business, or just when I was starting my entrepreneurship journey. And he said, make sure every day you do something that's going to get you closer to that goal that you have in your mind. Every single day. A Saturday, Sunday, it doesn't matter. And that for me has been very powerful. The other one I'd like to say is, the minute you stop to grow, you begin to die. Right? And so just set out every single day to learn something new, do something, just like keep that mentality of growth in your mind, and eventually you'll get there. My handle is Cris Njoki on all platforms, and my business is IKOJN. Our website is www.ikon.com. IKOJN across all handles.
Thank you.
It's impressive that you got ikon.com. That was crazy.
Right? And by the way, fun fact, IKOJN is Njoki backwards. I don't know if anyone knows that. So my second name is Njoki, so IKOJN is backwards. IKOJN.
Let me go before you, because you're a brilliant man.
Go ahead.
In anything I do, I try to get people to understand this one fact. If you say you can, you're right. If you say you can't, you're also right. Don't let your life circumstances be an excuse for your failure. Be your life circumstances, be the reason for your success. Because you can't change where you are, what you've gone through. But you can change how your story ends. That's it.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
We do know what to
Find
find you
yourself.
now.
Where do we find you?
Social media. Which is, Tonee Ndungu on everything. Just TONEENDUNGU.
Thank you, bro.
You have the opportunity, take it. Because nobody knows what the future holds. So you create your own future. Create it in your mind and then put it into action. I think sometimes if you're looking to try and foresee to be a prophet for the future, you're in the wrong position. You should create. Don't try and anticipate what other people are doing. Create it. Go after your dream. I know it sounds cliche, but it's what works. What works is to say, I believe, I know what I'm going for, and this is what I'm going to try. And in doing so, you will find the path there. Enjoy the adventure of getting to that position. Easiest way to find me is through Centonomy. We are on every single platform, I think, that's out there. So just look for Centonomy. And if you want to find me, I'm also on social media, Waithaka Gatumia. You'll find me on a couple of them. Yeah.
First of all, before we close this, and thank you so much for our panelists, I want to shout out this particular lady, Cris Njoki, who's come. There's my camera. You've been so at home here. It's mantalk.ke, but it's been a pleasure to have a woman in the room. For the gentlemen, let's give her a round of applause. First of all, let's start there.
Yes, sir.
And for your voices, Tonee, Waithaka, I hope we can continue these conversations outside of this. And let's foster a relationship where we can speak more about business and being African and how we can participate in the global economy better. And being Kenyan, I feel like as Kenyans, we really need to hear more of your voices, more of your ideas, more of your perspectives for those young people who are watching this from home. So thank you so much. Remember to keep walking. And
We hope
you enjoyed this
episode
half as much
as we enjoyed making it.
because we had a ball.
See you next week, guys.
See you next week. See you
Peace.
around.
Peace. Round of applause. Round of applause.
You guys are big.